Hey y'all, I'm Morgan and welcome or welcome back. If you guys are new here, please consider checking out my other videos. I have bookish unboxings, vlogs, book reviews like we're doing today. And if you're enjoying it, please consider subscribing. Today, as I said, we are going to be reviewing Suni Dean's new book, The Book Eaters. And I am so excited to tell you guys about this because this was one of my anticipated releases. Look how short it is, like, oh my gosh. And this one was not what I expected. And I will definitely remember to break the video down between spoilers and not spoilers correctly this time. Promise. The Book Eaters by Suni Dean was a new release for August that was branded, I think, as horror fantasy. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly why they gave it horror classification, because while yes, there is some dark little gruesome bits, I don't know, it wasn't, I can't do scary. And you know, this was not scary. Was there a little bit of gore? Yes, we had some gore, so maybe that's fine. I don't know. But The Book Eaters is about a group of humanoids that obviously eat books to survive. That is what their species does. From their own kind of lore, they were created by someone called the Collector, which is not from Earth. They make it sound like maybe an alien, but at our main character Devon's point in time, pretty much no one in her generation believes the Collector will ever come back. They're just there. And the Book Eaters seem like they've been there for centuries or more, maybe. I don't know. It's very unclear when the Book Eaters started on Earth, because if they eat books and stuff, so how would they have survived before printed books were popular? I don't know. I'm not sure. But what happens with the Book Eaters is that they, of course, they eat books, so they'll feed their children. The girls eat a lot of fairy tales. Their diet is very, controlled by, that's what they're allowed to eat. So stories of princesses and being rescued and, being good. And boys are raised more on like tactical stories of knights, heroism, stuff like that, even in today's modern age. And bad children are forced to eat dictionaries. And they can learn where to go in the world and different contexts like that by eating maps. Our main character eats a train schedule at one point, so like she knows when all the trains are arriving and where they're going. It's just in her head. And they maintain the things that they eat. Even when they eat something else, they'll still have the knowledge of everything else that they've eaten. It's just slightly not as fresh in their mind. Like what they just ate is always fresher knowledge. But every now and then there are book eater children born with a different kind of condition. Instead of wanting to eat books, they want to eat human minds. And they can tell right when the baby's born because its tongue is different. It's tubular, as in like it can go in your ear and suck out your brain. That could be another reason why it's classified as a horror book. Unfortunately, our main character, Devon, her son is born as a mind eater. So a lot of the book is her trying to take care of him and save him, because at the point in time where most of the book takes place, he's 5. So yeah, it's very, very different. The book does flash back and forth between present day Devon and different points in her life. Like we'll go when she's a child to an adolescent and her first marriage, which we will talk about that later. And yeah, another reason it's not exactly horror, but it's very grim and dark, is the dark side of why book eater girls are always fed fairy tales. Also have to get into that later. Through most of the book, you are only seeing from Devon's perspective, either past or present. But I think it was in part 2 or maybe part 3 where you also begin to see from her brother's perspective, sprinkled in every few chapters. And he wasn't the most pleasant to see from, because she does have an older brother, Ramsey, and so you see from his as well. This book is incredibly short. It's only page number 295 pages. So this was less than a 300-page book, and I have all of the notes because, oh my gosh. The book's main theme is, I think, more about love than anything. Even, I know it's a horror book, but you know, it's a parent's love of what she's willing to do for her child, what she'll go through for her child. And even she talks about it as in love has no cost. You know, this is just that you can't put a price on it. It just is. And her relationship with her son Kai and how everything works, and just Devin goes from being someone who, you know, was raised on fairy tales to being a very take charge person, which I think that was her personality all along. As she would sneak and eat things that she wasn't supposed to. Literally, when she was a child, it talked about her, I think she went through a window to get into a library to get to the other books. It was she's a very interesting character, to say the least. She was a mom who's going to do what she had to for her son. As I said, the Book Eater's creator person, they believe the collector, left them here centuries and centuries ago to collect information on humans by the book eating. And since then, I guess because their population was not as vast, so there was not as much spreadability, I don't know. But the book eater physiology has had problems over the centuries, and now there are a lot of issues between having more babies and the amount of boys versus girls. Also, because they are not integrated with human society, they are now having problems traveling between the countries, so their population is even more segregated into only select groups in each country, so the breeding stock is even less. And we will get into those issues more in the spoilery part. But yeah, I don't feel like saying that is too much of an issue. But if you would like to know how things are, happening with that, please see the spoilers. Well, that's probably as much as I could say without spoilers, so we're going to start the spoiler portion here. So if you don't want to hear the spoilery details, you can skip to the end of the video where I'll actually do the rating and more of the final thoughts. I guess that was kind of a final thought too. But I'll put the rating at the end, and it's going to be chaptered in this video, so you can skip right to that if you don't want to see the spoilers. So throughout this whole book, Devin is on the run. She's on the run from the Book Eater families with her son Kai after something has happened that's bad. And she's trying to protect Kai because he is a mind eater, and to the Book Eater families, that is a very dangerous type of person, even though he's a small child. Pretty much what they have done is they kind of weaponize them. They send them to live with a group known as the Knights, which is separate from all of the major families. Think monarchy, hierarchy type of thing, except slightly all on equal footing. They're all like ducal families or whatever. But the Knights are a separate group. And what the Knights do is they arrange marriage contracts between the families, and they say to help prevent the inbreeding or what like that, since there's not as many of them anymore. And as another thing that they want to help prevent that for, marriage contracts only last for maybe 3-5 years tops because of the fertility problem that they're having, where women are now going through menopause at the age of maybe 27, 28. So each Book Eater female can only have 2, possibly 3 kids, and they're married off at 18. That is another reason why they are fed fairy tales. So they always have this fantastical idea about life and what's going to happen. And after, though, you know, reality smacks them in the face just a little bit, as they're married off to normally like 40-year-old dude. She got lucky in her second marriage, and he was only in his 30s. But he was super cruel and just didn't care about her much. But okay, so this 18-year-old is married to a 40-something-year-old. And she has a daughter, and she loves the daughter, and she's doting on her, of course. But what they do to the parents, to the mother specifically, is after your marriage contract is up, you go back and live with your family that you were raised with. So you're separated from your children forever. All the girls, because there are so few of them, never got in trouble. They're always princesses. But then, they come of age, they're married off, and, you realize you have no actual rights. You have no freedom. You're pretty much breeding stock, and you're expected just to be okay with the fact that they take your children away from you. And she hates it, and she rebels against it, and she does all this stuff. Like, what she did, though, with her daughter, Salem, is, she actually spent a lot of time with her. They bonded. They had this huge relationship. And they try to discourage that because they're going to separate you. So they try to discourage that to make it easier on the mother. And, she admits that she even did forget about her own mother after a while. She didn't think about her much. Of course, she figures she was probably sad when her mother first disappeared. But after a few years, she kind of didn't think about her mother anymore. And she's like, I hope that this isn't happening with Salem. I do hope she remembers me. But she tries, she tries to be the good book eater, wife, mother person they want her to be. She enters her second marriage. She tries not to care or anything. She's like, Salem is my goal. I won't get attached to anything else. Just Salem. But then she gets pregnant with Kai. And of course, you're gonna love your kids. And as soon as she had him and saw that he was different too, she knew she had to protect him as well. She's like, I can't abandon him. So yeah. It's Devin had a lot of struggles. And she does have Kai, and she never does forget about Salem though. And that's the unresolved part at the end of the book. And Kai even asks her, once they are kind of away a bit to safety, he's like, well, what about my sister? How are we going to save her? And Devin tells him, okay, once we get you somewhere safe and I know you're okay, then I'm going back for Salem. And Kai tells her, nope, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to help save her. And that's like so sweet because he's 5, at least physically. Mentally, because of he's being a mind eater though, he's eaten adult minds. And so he's a very, very mature 5-year-old. And that's another heartbreaking part about this book, is that he's no longer this little kid, this baby. He has all these grown-up thoughts and memories of other people. And he just doesn't get to have that childlikeness anymore. And that's just awful. It's so bad. The mind eaters, like her son Kai, are not a new thing. They've been around almost as long as the book eaters have. They've had this problem of a gene popping up in the family that's like this. So one of the book eater families, the Ravenscars, had created a drug in the 1920s to be able to give the mind eaters that would not make them crave minds, that made it to where they could eat books like everybody else. And this is how also they were able to send the mind eater children to the knights to be able to be controlled and just used to keep people in line, kind of. But they still treated them very, very poorly, almost like animals, because they're like, okay, even if they don't need to eat minds, that craving is still always there, so they can't be trusted, which is horrible in its own right. However, around the time Kai is 3, something happens with the Ravenscars. There's an internal civil war battle, and the whole mansion burns to the ground. They are still the only one that know how to make the mind eater drug. And this is the turning point in Devin's life where she has to start fighting and start taking responsibility for things. So she and Kai escape his father's family and go on the run. And unfortunately, this is also where she has to actually start feeding him minds, because the drug that he has been raised on since he was a baby is no longer available. And so she is hunting and talking to drug dealers and trying to find contacts to find the Ravenscars to be able to get him this drug again, because she wants her son to have a better life, a normal life, and escape the families completely. So a lot of this book is Devin on the hunt for that and dealing with the guilt of having to feed Kai people and just trying to keep her son alive. And it was heartbreaking at some points, but she never gave up. She never gave up on it and knew that eventually she would find them. And she does, and things are not quite what she expected at all. And then you start seeing through her brother's perspective, and Ramsey's a bit crazy, but I guess because he's a male book eater and was raised to believe that their job is always to protect the females, they're always right, they know what's right, him in particular. And so he's a bit crazy, and so seeing through his was very arrogant, and things start to change as you start to see from his perspective, and different pieces of the story play out a little bit differently now. So yeah, that was it gave it a good secondary view, I suppose, but maybe I would have been okay without seeing through the crazy. Overall, I gave the book 4 stars because the plot was pretty good, and it was a very quick read for sure. And I liked Devon mostly as a character. Sometimes her stubbornness or the way she didn't think something through, it was like rushed kind of decisions, not really then. So yeah, some things I didn't enjoy about her, or some of the choices she made weren't smart. And overall though, it was a super good book. It was different, like very different than most things I've ever read. It's urban fantasy. I guess it has the horror vibes. That's why they wanted to say it was a horror fantasy. It is dark for sure. And yeah, it gives slightly grim vibes because of the gory bits that happen and the sad things that happen. Throughout the whole book is a very sad back feeling. But I recommend a lot of people should check this out because it's super short. So you'll be done in no time. And it leaves you feeling slightly, like something good happened, even though it does have that unresolved part at the end of that she does continue it, because I want Devon to be able to have that resolution. I want her to, it doesn't have to have a happy ending because life doesn't normally have that, but at least to be able to have closure and to just be able to have a life of her choosing with Kai and person that, if you didn't watch the spoilers, we're not going to talk about. It's just, I mean, I don't know. I need more of this, apparently. Because it was intriguing, and I'm happy with the book, and I am glad that I picked it up, for sure. And I hope that I have encouraged some of you to pick it up as well, because it deserves it. It deserves it. Either way, though, I do hope that you guys are finding something awesome to read this weekend and having a great weekend. And I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.